Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
We're already into the second month of the year, but it's not a bad time to ask, what's happening to our men? Why are they responsible for the overwhelming majority of suicide recorded in the country in 2024 and for the last 4 years taken as a clump? Why are men more prone to ending their lives than women? What systems are in place to provide a safe outlet for men? And how can the society be more facilitating of our men to help them through the problems and to conquer the demons that ultimately drive them to end their own lives? That's a discussion we'll have today on Lead Story, CVM TV. Statistics compiled by the Jamaica Constabulary Force shows that men are responsible for the overwhelming majority of suicides, especially older men. It's a trend, a worrying trend that has been mapped with particular interest since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the experts felt that that situation had a lot to do with the fact that more men were taking their lives compared to women. And when you narrowed down these statistics and you looked into them, you realized that older men were more prone to suicide than any other age group. And so the question, what is the reason for this? Is it still the overhang of COVID-19 that is pushing men into this situation, but COVID has been away from us for some time now? Are there other societal forces? And is there anything in place to help men to deal better with the problems that they encounter, to help them to find another way rather than terminally dealing with the problem themselves? It's a situation that is ripe for a discussion, and we intend to have that right here this evening. But first, a little bit of context setting for you. And of course, we went to the streets to gauge the public's perception on whether men are taking care of themselves enough, and more crucially, whether society is enabling to men taking care of themselves and helping men to do so.
While Jamaica is often cited as having one of the lowest overall suicide rates in the world, averaging around 2 per 100,000 population over extended periods, the seemingly low rate masks a disturbing reality. Men are overwhelmingly more likely to die by suicide. Male suicides in Jamaica can outnumber female deaths by as much as 10 to 1, with more than 90% of suicide cases being men over the last decade. This disproportionate impact calls for a critical examination of the unique pressures and systemic challenges faced by Jamaican men. Statistics as far back as the early 2000s to 2010 show that men in Jamaica are significantly more likely to die by suicide when compared to women, with male rates reaching highs of 4.7 per 100,000 in certain years, while female rates remained below 1 per 100,000. More recent local reports have highlighted a worrying uptick in suicide numbers. 2002 saw a 26% jump in the overall count, for reaching a 23-year high. The trend in 2024 continued, as 67 people in Jamaica died by suicide, and 61 of them were men. Multiple intersecting factors may be contributing to this stark gender disparity: deeply ingrained societal norms that discourage men from expressing vulnerability, economic insecurity, unemployment and the loss of traditional roles, and the high rates of substance abuse, social isolation, compounded by the stigma associated with mental health challenges, leaves many men feeling disconnected from potential sources of support. But have the low suicide rates made us ignore the mental health crisis that may be affecting our Jamaican men, causing them to commit suicide at significantly higher rates? Do our Jamaican men need more targeted mental health interventions to combat the hardship of the highly violent society and the economic hardship that add to make life difficult? Well, we discuss on Lead Story. Courtney Lewis for Lead Story.
And just before we go to the break, as simple an example as this, you pass a stoplight at a busy intersection anywhere in the island, but let's pick the corporate area or even Montego Bay, and you see a young man sitting with a duffel bag with what appears to be clothes in it because the zipper isn't pulled the whole way so you can see items of clothing. And he sits there looking forlorn, and he'll sit there for the whole day. People will come and people will go, they'll pass him by, and perhaps no one will ask, what's the problem? Switch the gender, a young woman seen there, first time she's been seen there, similar to the young man. And there'll be several persons stopping by to ask, young woman, why are you out here? Young lady, what's happening? What's the situation? Do you need some help? And that it's not an anecdote drawn from nothing. It's a retelling it's a relaying rather of something that happens in real life. And that's just an example of how in Jamaica we are raised to be tough men. Men are expected to soldier on. A man seen in distress is left to reconcile by himself. A woman is given immediate help. That's how we treat our men in this society. We need to stop. But I'm not the expert. The experts are lying in wait to articulate for me and for us, to allow us to understand the situation better and to see what solutions are in the offing. You'll hear from them after this break.
Rise with Sunrise, Tamaiti celebrates Reggae Month. We take it all the way back to the first church in Wednesday service. Then it's a Bob Marley birthday check-in, and we'll grab our furry friend for an Irie Wags made possible by True Pet. And wrap your morning with a little maroon history. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Nardo!
What go on, man?
So you good? I've been here before. I can recall many nights up at UA, hungry a killer, but guess what? There was some saving grace, a beacon of light and hope. On this episode of Corner Office, we are about to find out more about who. Nardo! Who is Nardo? Where the money come from? Guess what? Over Nardo we are reaching now.
Yeah, okay,
Nardo, pull up to a chair now. Meet us over front, Nardo.
All right.
I do not 100% believe that males or fathers do have places where they can go to, to speak about things. You understand? As men, macho men, we normally keep things within, and in a society today, it is increasingly difficult to really find somewhere to, to release your valve. That's often judged.
To be frank, no, I don't believe that. They're not. Males are very sensitive and they're not open to share. Even sometimes with their lovers, they're not open to share.
I think so. Some of outlets I would believe is, well, you have churches that offer counseling, so they can go there, talk about their feelings if they don't want to be public. I guess some persons now use TikTok. They go and express themselves.
They definitely don't have an outlet for their feelings, or culture doesn't allow them to express themselves at all without being criticized, at least.
Well, honestly,
Yep. That's just a view from these streets. Some people we spoke to earlier this afternoon. I go now to Professor Wendell Abel. He's a consultant psychiatrist and Nation Miller Director of Male Empowerment Director of Male Empowerment at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Lead Story.
Good evening.
Nation, are you here?
Good evening. Thanks,
Good. You're welcome, sir. Professor, the feeling among people who don't study the numbers and look at the trends and don't talk to people is that while society is perhaps more accommodating and caring these days than at any other time, men still are left to their own devices to resolve the issues that ail them when they speak about issues that are ailing them. And then when they don't speak, it's because the world shuts itself off to men and doesn't provide an avenue for the ventilation of feelings and the resolution of problems. This is the untrained, unscientific view. Does this view marry with what the evidence suggests?
Maybe it's a combination of both, in that, one, we do know men do not handle their feelings very well. And I noticed one of the persons who was actually interviewed spoke about men, especially in our society, not being able to deal with their feelings adequately. But the true part of it is that in terms of how society has, how we bring up our men, how they're brought up in society, is that they are not expected to necessarily show their feelings very well. And when they do, they are considered less than. So it has to do with socialization. And of course, the behavior becomes deeply entrenched. And so at the core of this, an important part, of course, is how we deal with feelings and how we deal with problems that may be associated with problematic feelings. For example, depression, because since we're talking about suicide, I have to touch on this because when we look at our data here in Jamaica, mental health problems is a major factor contributing to suicide. And of the disorders, the most common disorder is actually depression. And we know that depression is a very common disorder. It affects 1 in 10 male over a lifetime. And we also know that when men are depressed, as with any other emotional problem, they don't deal with them, they don't express them, and most importantly, they do not seek health care. They're the last to go to see the doctor, the psychiatrist, or a mental health professional to deal with their problems.
Nashan Miller, how is it that we can move away from a situation where a girl in school who's misbehaving is said to need guidance and is looked out for by the faculty and staff, while a boy who acts out in a similar way and misbehaves is dismissed as being bad and is more likely to be beaten to straighten him out than for an arm around the shoulder to try to help him to navigate what is bedeviling him? Why are we still stuck there?
I think a big part of the reason is that we haven't come around to understand that men, even though you may not see them opening their mouth and talking about problems that are associated, they just don't feel like there's a safe space for them to express themselves. And when you see a boy over there not saying anything or misbehaving, everybody just quickly put it to, oh, he's a bad child. And he cannot be rehabilitated, he cannot change. So we are quick to throw away our men and boys, and you realize that it's a global thing. Because when we talk about, even we look at different jurisdiction, what is going on around the world, you will often hear women and children are dying. It's almost as to say that it's okay for men to die. Yeah, but not women and children.
Yes.
And while we understand, some of the things that are associated with the women and children around the world, we have to understand that men also need help. It's not okay for our lives to just be seen as replaceable, right? We're treated as robot, disposable. So we can be replaced all the time.
Yeah.
So we're not seen as persons who need care.
Yes.
And I think going back to that type of mindset and belief system that, from your male, you're okay.
Yes.
Nothing is even wrong if you end up committing suicide or in a mental institution or being murdered.
Yes. Hear you on that. Gentlemen, just hold the line. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come right back, we advance the discussion, because I want to hear what pushes men who feel this way to suicide when similar feelings in women don't necessarily lead to the same outcome.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Ford.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV, talking about suicide in men. We had to speak about general mental well-being before we get to this part of the discussion. We had to advance the narrative before we zeroed in on the real issue. Statistics show that men far more likely, a factor of 10 to 1 relative to women, to take their own lives, especially older men. And while the suicide situation in Jamaica is not of a national crisis, the numbers are still high, and the disparity male versus female is enough to warrant this discussion. So, Professor Abel, why is it that a man feeling as if he has the world on his shoulders is more likely to resolve that by taking his own life than a woman experiencing similar feelings?
All right, so the data that, this research that has been done in Jamaica on suicide has been done by a team which led by myself and others. And our data certainly shows that the vast majority of persons who complete suicide are men. But we prefer to talk about suicidal behavior, which spans suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and completing suicide. What is interesting is that more females actually attempt suicide, but more men complete suicide. And then you may ask, why is this so? It's because men have greater access to lethal weapons, and this is established worldwide. Yes, whereas women will probably overdose with medication and they might be able to survive that. Most men are going to actually shoot themselves or hang themselves or ingest lethal chemicals like pesticides and so on. So men tend to use more lethal means. Additionally, men also, in terms of the risk factors, they have risk factors that will increase their likelihood of completing suicide. They tend to be more impulsive. That's one. Earlier we mentioned that a major risk factor is depression. When men are depressed, they're less likely to seek treatment, so their depression will end up being very severe with suicidal ideation, and they'll act on it. And also, men tend to use alcohol and substances more, and this will put people at greater risk. It makes you more impulsive, your thought patterns more distorted, and you're more likely to actually complete suicide.
And what is the data saying about the prevalence of suicide among the category designated older male? Why older male more likely than younger males or super senior males then?
All right, that's a very important question. So we see two peaks in suicidal patterns in Jamaica and the world. We see it in younger adults and we see it in older people over the age of 65, yes? And you asked a question about older persons, and I think I need to put it in context because our population is aging.
Yes.
And this is a major issue we have to deal with. Why older people? It has to do with aging, it has to do with loneliness, it has to do with isolation. We have a major problem in Jamaica with a high percentage of persons not having pension. Yes, and a lot of people are aging and they don't have, they're in financial problems because they don't have pension or they have outlived their pension. So the financial stress is a major, major one. And of course, once again, all of these are going to or may lead to depression, which puts you at great risk in terms of completing suicide or attempting suicide.
Yes, Nashan Miller, it's not a referendum on the work that you do in the Bureau of Gender Affairs or the work that your colleagues do, but a lot of people view the gender of women's affairs as the gender of the Bureau that deals only with issues affecting women, not both gender, male and female. They look at it that way. And so the men who believe that don't believe that there is an avenue through your office to give them the kind of assistance to steer them away from suicidal thoughts and suicidal actions. How are you working to overcome this if you accept that this is the reality?
Yes, certainly, because as you know, we were originally Bureau of Women's Affairs, and looking at as women over the years have been treated as second-class citizens, have been able to access certain things that you would say as a society we should provide. So while this is going on, a lot was put in place to assist our women and girls, but you realize that or men and boys, because data, if you look at all the major categories in terms of life chances, we're talking about suicide, mental health, life expectancy, education, murder, it disproportionately affects our males. Yes, and recognizing this, we decide to now look at both men and women. So what we're doing is raising awareness, letting persons know. It was just last year, our male empowerment unit was officially open because we recognize that there are so many going on with our men and boys. And when we think about gender, we normally see synonymous with women issues. But as I said, the data is there showing that men need help too.
Nashan, we need to see more of you in the schools and on platforms like these. And I'm opening an invitation to you that whenever you have an issue, you are more than welcome here to share, because I think that the work that you do needs to be amplified so more of the men in society and the males in society can know that there is somewhere where someone will at least listen to them without cursing them out.
Yes, definitely. As I said, we get these questions all the time. What is being done for the men? And my background, you see a little part like something like Daddy Daycare, where we're partnering with the Jamaica Premier League to focus on the fathers in the Premier League, who need the support. They are in the communities, and if we can reach them, they are often looked at as role models. And if we can enable them to be better fathers or to be accountable, then you have persons looking up to them. Last year for our Father's Day, we had caring for the caring dad, because that is something that we recognize that we need to care for our men, right? They have spent much time caring for the family and not caring for themselves. So we need to have, as I said, amplify it and let it be known that, hey, we're here. And we are doing, as I said, it was Bureau of Women's Affairs, now we're Gender Affairs. Yeah. We have an entire unit dedicated to our men and boys. We have a helpline for males to call, receive thousands of calls.
What's that number? What's that number quickly, Nashan? What's that number?
It's 553-0387. 876-553-0387.
876-553-0387.
87.
Yeah.
Call to talk about even wanting to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Wanting a counselor, somebody to talk to.
Yes.
So our lines are open, and as I said, persons have been calling it, and we have networks, individuals and groups throughout that we call upon, because we understand that it's a unit, it's a small unit. It was a desk, a male desk, now it's a unit.
Absolutely.
And we recognize that there's so much work to be done in this area.
Professor Abel, let me ask you this as we close out. When a man is depressed and turns to the bottle to drink, or he turns to substances to cope, is it that, based on the research of course, is it that it is the use and abuse of the substance that perhaps nudges them to suicidal thoughts and actions? Or is it that perhaps to some people, using these substances pulls them back from the brink? I've always wanted to know about that relationship.
Well, firstly, addiction begins and ends with pain. So there are two issues here. People use drugs to very often deal with underlying pain, yeah? The pain could be related to any sort of problems in your life, depression, whatever. But when you also use a drug, it actually puts you at greater risk for suicidal behavior, yeah? So, so there are two issues here. It's the pain, and a lot of the pain sometimes stems is linked to childhood trauma. That's another issue that we haven't discussed this afternoon. What we call adverse childhood experiences is that 80% of Jamaican children report they would have been exposed to one ACEs, these adverse childhood experiences, which lead to a lot of long-term problems like mental health problems, substance abuse problem, suicidal behavior, suicide completion, and that sort of thing, right? So, a major factor here is how we deal also with childhood trauma. But yes, substance abuse is a major problem. It put people at great risk.
Hear you on that. Professor Abe, I want to thank you for your time this evening. I'm out of it. And Nashan Miller, Director of Male Empowerment at the Bureau of Gender Affairs, not Women Affairs anymore. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And we hope we're going to put up the hotline number so that anybody who has a problem or knows someone who has a problem can make a reference. There's a number on the screen, 876-553-0387. If you're having a problem, you need someone just to listen to you. You say to yourself, you don't like when you're talking and you're being interrupted, being told what you're doing wrong. You just want somebody to listen. Call that number and have a chat, and they'll be more than happy to facilitate you airing the issues that are compromising your well-being. It's a hell of a thing, yeah? It's hard for a man in today's society. As Nashan said, people say, a house exploded today and 5 children died, or 3 women were shot and killed. What's happening to our country? 10 men shot and killed, business as usual. Yeah? The society is not giving men their due. We are not getting our due. There aren't enough avenues for us to vent and for us to simmer back down to gravy, to come down from those issues that are troubling us the most. That's my time. A lady is waiting to deliver the news at 7. Nika Lewis.
Come rise with sunrise. Tamaiti celebrates Reggae Month. We take it all the way back to the first church in Wednesday service. Then it's a Bob Marley birthday check-in, and we'll grab our furry friend for an Irie Wags made possible by Troopet. And wrap your morning with a little maroon history. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Flint.
Nardo!
What go on, man?
So you good? I've been here before. I can recall many nights up at Yui, hungry a killer, but guess what? There was some saving grace, a beacon of light and hope. On this episode of Corner Office, we are about to find out more about who. Nardo! Who is Nardo? Where the man you come from? Guess what? Over Nardo we are reaching now.
Yo,
Nardo, pull up to a chair now. Meet us over front, Nardo.
Alright.
You can open a Sagicor Bank savings account from anywhere. Go online and open yours today.
The time by Sagicor Bank is
7 o'clock. CVM News at 7 Tuesday, brought to you by KFC.
Do whatever the crunch you want with KFC's popcorn chicken. Now available in hot and spicy. KFC, it's finger licking good.
In CVM News at 7, spark kicks off, but questions linger. Waltham Park Road repairs begin after fiery protest. Ambassador Ward says negatives could outweigh the gains of mass deportations. In the business report, DRT Communications to power PSOJ media monitoring. While in sports, we'll have our JPL in review. From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. I'm Nika Lewis. It's Tuesday, February 4, 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. A massive $45 billion road rehabilitation program is rolling out across Jamaica. But in Parliament today, opposition MPs raised concerns about transparency regarding project details, contractor selection, and long-term maintenance. While the government insists the initiative will modernize Jamaica's infrastructure, questions remain about exactly how much of the country's deteriorating road network will be repaired. Here's Ramon Gordon.
The government says its Spark program is a game changer, with 126 roads slated for repairs this financial year. Tuesday, Works Minister Robert Morgan detailed 42 roads in Work Order 1, spanning 21 constituencies across 8 parishes. Work has already started on Everest Drive, St. Andrew, with additional projects scheduled to begin this week in the corporate area. Morgan says 2 roads in every constituency will be completed before March 31, and work orders 2 and 3, adding another 84 roads, will begin between February and March. However, opposition spokesperson on Works, Michael Phillips, questioned whether the public was getting the full picture.
Spark is being promoted as the answer to all the bad roads that we have in the country. Out of the 30,000 kilometers of roads that we have island-wide, then it would be good for the country to understand how many of that 30,000 kilometers of road will be repaired and rehabilitated under Spark.
Morgan admitted he did not have an answer.
I do not have that information. What I have is how much money is going to be spent in your constituency to fix 6 or 7 roads to impact the residents and citizens of your constituency to fix the roads that they chose to fix.
Another major question: who will actually be doing the work? Morgan confirmed that China Harbour Engineering won the contract through an international tender process, but stated that the government has no direct role in the selection of subcontractors.
We as the NWA cannot interfere with the contract and tell China Harbour which contractor to engage. What we can say is that it is mandatory that local contractors are engaged, and we know that China Harbour is currently in discussions with numerous contractors all across the island in every parish to engage them to participate in the Spark program.
Despite the scale of the project, some MPs say public awareness efforts have been weak, leaving residents confused about which roads will be repaired and when. There was even a call-out from within government ranks.
I think that the fact that the parish offices are not involved in Spark, and it is the head office of NWA, that there should be somebody specified in the head office to be able to deal with us as Member of Parliament.
I'm very disturbed. Totally breach of protocol from Minister to ask next Minister question in Parliament. Totally unacceptable.
With billions in tax dollars on the line, the government is facing growing pressure to provide clear answers on how much of Jamaica's crumbling infrastructure will be truly fixed. For now, road repairs have begun, but for some, questions remain. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
Well, work got underway along Waltham Park Road in St. Andrew following sustained complaints about poor conditions and frequent sewage overflows. The action comes after a fiery protest Monday where taxi operators blocked the road and withdrew their services, demanding urgent intervention. One protester expressed disappointment that such drastic measures were necessary to get the authorities to act. However, while repairs are underway, he reminds that related drainage issues must also be addressed.
The road them need a proper repair. This is what we're doing on the back right now, a little shingle. That's only take off a little pressure off away. But right now, we need the sewage to start out because the scent affects everybody. You could imagine for the Sunday evening having a dinner and all these scents are blowing through your window. And you mean you tell me say you sit down and eat like that? Come on, man. You got to do better.
Tensions escalated today in a section of Maypen, Clarendon, where taxi operators staged a protest, insisting they're being harassed by the Transport Authority. They're calling for immediate action to what they term unfair treatment. Britannia Witter tells us more.
100 taxi drivers lined the street today in a section near the Maypen Bridge, waving placards and chanting slogans, demanding an end to what they describe as unfair treatment and unnecessary fines by the Transport Authority.
2 different tickets for badge. So every third one they tap me down there. Me I get badge so that then this organ that then set them on a mission then. A certain amount of quota have to come in for the day.
We're facing too much pressure out here with the Transport Authority, police, and even the soldiers them too. And when them stop with them deal with like we are nobody.
The protesters argued that the Transport Authority has been unnecessarily targeting them with fines for minor infractions such as not having certain paperwork or making brief stops in unauthorized areas.
And we then do all the while, they take set pan with, and through they know we name, they write the summons them, and carry them gun through pan with offense, so we don't know about. See me, but me tell, and it turn in a warrant. So me tell them, say this time, and me and them and me liar go. Because none of them not get the papers, because me never did a work, and they never stop me at least. But them are right up my plate number.
Many drivers argue that the regulations are inconsistently applied and that they're being unfairly singled out while having to compete with other transport services, such as the Jamaica Urban Transit Company. President of the Vair Taxi Association, Frederick Bryan, described the protest as an escalation of grievances.
What you see happening here is as a result of extreme pressure being brought to bear on the operators that fly this route. You know, these various operators that are here, they are withdrawing the service in protest of them. But they claim undue pressure being brought to bear on them from the Transport Authority.
Maypen Mayor Joel Williams, who said he stumbled onto the protest, called for a meeting to address their concerns.
Based on what I've heard, I have called the managing director, Mr. Ranson Smith, and he's prepared to meet them here tomorrow at 12 o'clock to have to hear their concerns and to see how best we can resolve those issues.
Britannia Witter, CVM News.
While many undocumented migrants returning to Jamaica from the U.S. can do significantly by adding value, the fallouts from Trump's mass deportations could far outweigh the gains to either nations. That's according to former Jamaican United Nations Ambassador Curtis Ward. But can a recent offer to outsource undocumented immigrants serving time in the U.S. change these expected outcomes? With over 5,000 Jamaicans set to return by way of deportation from North America under the Trump administration, former UN Ambassador Curtis Ward says the Jamaican community there is on edge. And while there are potential gains, as indicated by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who welcomed the useful skills and talents of some already self-deporting, that's only one side of the coin.
There are many undocumented Jamaicans here in the U.S. who have not committed any crimes. Most of the undocumented here of Jamaican lineage have not committed any crimes. And they are not on the initial list, but they are now subject to being rounded up. Many of them have excellent qualifications and can contribute to Jamaica's economy and growth if they can find jobs when they return.
Ward says some have already taken the route of self-deporting, quickly reminding that unfortunately, not all deported Jamaicans will be of value to the country.
There's a fear going through the community. And so there could be some benefits to Jamaica, but there's also a lot of downside to this. Because Jamaica may not be able to absorb them. And as far as those who have committed crimes in the United States, that will pose other significant difficulties for the country.
The former UN ambassador says the mass deportations will undoubtedly haunt the U.S. in coming months.
Already, we are seeing an impact on the various industries, and many of them have hit out against this mass deportation program of the Trump administration. But we haven't yet even begun to feel the impact of it until we are unable to receive farm products on the shelves of the supermarkets, meat products coming from the processing plants, services in the hotels.
Meanwhile, Washington announced that El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele, in an unprecedented move, has offered to accept undocumented immigrants of any nationality with criminal backgrounds from the United States for a fee. No country has ever made an offer of friendship such as this, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced late Monday during a trip to the Central American country. The Washington Post notes the agreement comes as the Trump administration seeks to ramp up its mass deportation efforts. There's more to come on CVM News at 7, right after this break.
Join my private room. Only $1,000 for a grand time.
That I know me. We never said that. But who going to believe me?
That is correct. $4,350,000. Yes, go ahead. $4 million? I never approved that.
Yes, me I go doctor tomorrow. So me have to get the money today, no longer. Then no me face that. We never make no record or beg nobody no money.
Deepfakes are AI-generated images and videos made to look and sound like people we know and trust. They're used to spread misinformation, destroy reputations, and are used to commit fraud and scams.
Don't fall victim to deepfakes. Protect yourself. For more information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or scan the QR code on screen.
Come rise with sunrise. Tamaiti celebrates Reggae Month. We take it all the way back to the first church in Wednesday service. Then it's a Bob Marley birthday check-in, and we'll grab our furry friend for an Irie Wags made possible by Troopet. And wrap your morning with a little maroon history. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Welcome back. While reviews of the Integrity Commission Act continue, various social groups are submitting their recommendations on Section 53, or the gag clause of the Act. While the National Integrity Action is calling for some amendments, some parliamentarians have a different view. Courtney Lewis observed the Joint Select Committee meeting today.
Various groups have made recommendations for the amendment or repeal of the gag clause, or Section 53 of the Integrity Commission Act, which prevents the Integrity Commission from sharing its investigations before tabling in Parliament. Of them, the National Integrity Action, NIA, which calls for its deletion and replacement. The rationale? To achieve greater transparency and accountability.
To achieve this object specifically and the purposes of the Act generally, we submit that Section 53.3, the gag clause, should be deleted and replaced by a formulation which balances transparency and accountability with confidentiality and fairness.
The call from the NIA comes amid a myriad of concerns about the reputation of members of public office, a controversy at which the Prime Minister is at the heart. At least one lawmaker is unconvinced there needs to be any amendment.
As far as I'm concerned, even though most of the submissions are saying the so-called gag clause should be removed, it is there to avoid reputational damage, and my position is that it should remain as is.
Minister Chuck was not alone. Senator Golding Campbell says while she's open to review, the Integrity Commission should seek to build public confidence without public commentary.
I suspect the argument is going to be, but when the public knows that it's happening, the public gains confidence. And I respectfully disagree with that. When the public knows that you have investigated a matter and you have completed your investigation and it has been thoroughly and well done, and you have referred this matter for prosecution, and the Director of Corruption Prosecution says, yes, your evidence is there, your findings are sound, this is a matter to be prosecuted. That is what, in my view, enhances public confidence.
But some believe the IC's transparency and timeliness can aid in reducing speculations as parliamentarians are most scrutinized.
In terms of an agency which receives a very large budget, it is important to know who they are investigating and where they are with those investigations. What the public wants to see, having seen whether it is 6 officials under investigation, they would want to see timely publication of timely tabling of those reports in Parliament, so it reduces the speculation and the anxiety that might exist in particular groupings.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
People's National Party St. Andrew Eastern standard bearer Patricia Duncan Sutherland is raising concern over alleged surge in crime in some St. Andrew communities, an issue which has forced some residents engaging the services of private security. All this while the security forces say the claim is being investigated. Shante McNeil has more.
Conflicting claims are emerging over reported surge in robberies and break-ins in Mona Heights and Pope Pasture St. Andrew. Opposition standard bearer for St. Andrew East, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, says the residents living in the communities, which fall in close proximity to the University of the West Indies, have raised serious concerns.
The truth is that Mona and Hope Pastures, whereas we don't have violent crimes in those areas, we have a significant level of petty crimes, robberies, hold-ups, but not necessarily with weapons that are not guns, but maybe knives.
She says domestic workers are among those most affected.
The people, a lot of the helpers and the gardeners are the ones who are the victims of those crimes because they walk on the road. And then there's also the issue of some housebreaking.
CVM News contacted the area police, who disclosed that while these crimes are possible, they have no reports of any surge in the area and will be investigating the matter. According to them, many incidents go unreported. That contradicts the caretaker's claim that the local Citizens Association has been working closely with the police to address the situation. However, she says some residents are now turning to alternative security measures.
But I find that a lot more citizens are using private security because they are not yet confident that the police will be able to address the situation and protect them prior to the crime happening.
Duncan Sutherland says she intends to collaborate with the police to find solutions.
I will be meeting with the police and to try to get them to talk more with the citizens so that we can have more preventative methodology put in place, more patrols, more presence in the communities so that the people can feel safe in their communities.
According to Jamaica Constabulary Force data, over 60 major crimes, including robberies and break-ins, were recorded in St. Andrew in 2024. Shante McNeil, CVM News.
And ahead of the break, we are joined on set by Jordan Fort for a preview of what's coming up in sports. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Nika. Well, you know, there was an 8-goal thriller in CVM TV's Monday match night in the Jamaica Premier League last night. If you don't know what happened, we'll have the details of all that. Plus, one of Jamaica's top tennis players retiring from the sport. Was that a rash decision? All that coming up in sports.
And you don't want to miss that, so join us later on. We take a break.
Whatever the crunch you want with KFC's popcorn chicken. Delicious, crispy, irresistible. Now available in hot and spicy. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
We are back in the cut.
Why if you talk about we're back?
Teeth, I make an early creed.
I'm just saying though.
Just saying.
You, how are you, man? Two is better than too many, yes. Link me chip right so me say, yo, that no one do.
People are ask if we turn friend again. You link me in a G and say, let's make bygones
be bygones. Deeper than that. Are you give me the first big song? We not going under.
You spend as much time in the limelight as you spend behind bars. What was the darkest time?
We are get to youth and we have ego and I start messing and say, no, God have an any night. I couldn't me alone.
Straight for dinner and now make no wrong turn. If you don't like Sizzler, you must love Shango.
Yo, that body. And if you even rate Jamie Foxx, you must rate Django.
One teach.
One mash.
The Cut is brought to you by Flow.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Fort.
Every dream conquered is another dream game. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't put it down. Shine your lights
Welcome back. It's now time for regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. Minister of Energy and Energy Industries and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister Stuart Young is clarifying reports in the public domain about the agreement between state-owned Paria Fuel Trading Company and Jamaica's Petrojam Limited. More from TTT News.
Via a media release dated February 2nd, Paria Fuel Trading Company indicated it is expanding its bunkering services as a means of earning foreign exchange. Paria acknowledged that it entered into a 6-month contract with Petrojam for the purchase of very low sulfur fuel oil. The maximum total volume of 540,000 barrels is estimated to cost $50.2 million. Paria indicated it received the inaugural shipment of approximately 50,000 barrels from Petrojam on February 1st.
None of this 500,000 barrels is for domestic. It is being used in our bunkering operations. We're purchasing it. It is marine fuel that is then being sold to vessels that come into Trinidad's waters at a profit. So it is a net foreign exchange earner. And a fraction, 500,000 barrels, compared to 17 million that Paria purchases a year. So this is complete mischief. It changes nothing in a negative manner for Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Young said the transaction between Paria and Petrojam is a result of 2 years of negotiations to promote bilateral relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica.
Heavily armed gangs in Haiti have attacked a neighborhood that had previously been largely untouched by criminals. Police have demanded help, repelling the assault that has killed at least 40 people. We turn to France 24.
Machine gun fire rings out in the mountains around Kenskoff. It's an assault that has lasted days, leaving dozens dead.
The gangs have killed and seized people. They've burned a lot of people. They're killing. The houses are burning. The gardens of the growers are destroyed. The gangs were killing animals today. It's been 8 days since they attacked again.
The violence has been blamed on the Vivan Sam gang. The town, 10 kilometres southeast of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, is home to many of the country's elite and had till now been largely untouched by the gang violence that has plagued Haiti in recent years. But many of the victims are working-class people who tend crops on the outskirts of Kenskoff in the mountain's foothills.
They burned everything. They killed all the animals. They killed my uncle, my brother-in-law, my father. I just spent 4 days sleeping in the fields to hide. They even burned my ID cards.
And in international news, China slapped tariffs on U.S. imports in a swift response to new U.S. duties on Chinese goods, renewing a trade war between the world's two top economies. That report from Reuters.
U.S. tariffs on China are now in effect, with an additional 10% duty placed on all their goods from 1 minute past midnight on Tuesday. China retaliated within minutes, with its finance ministry announcing it will apply a 15% tariff on US coal and liquefied natural gas on February 10th, as well as an additional 10% on crude oil, farm equipment, and some vehicles. A White House spokesperson had said Monday that President Donald Trump will be speaking with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in the next couple of days, as the world's two largest economies seek a deal that could avert a broader trade war and avoid a deepening conflict. The call would be Trump and Xi's first known talks since Trump took office on January 20th. On Saturday, Trump ordered sweeping tariffs on goods not only from China, but also Mexico and Canada. Part of demands they stop the flow of illegal fentanyl, a leading cause of drug overdoses in the US. Trump backed away from his tariff threat against Mexico and Canada on Monday after speaking to leaders of both countries.
And that's it for regional and international news.
CVM News at 7 continues in a moment.
Come rise with sunrise. Tamaiti celebrates Reggae Month. We take it all the way back to the first church in Wednesday service. Then it's a Bob Marley birthday check-in, and we'll grab our furry friend for an Irie Wags made possible by Troopet. And wrap your morning with a little maroon history. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Our days get a little complex sometimes. Often so many things make sense, yet so many do not. We are being intentional about giving prominence to the big stories in order to clarify and enlighten. Lead Story explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
Nardo.
What go on, man?
So you good?
I've been here before. I can recall many nights up at UA, hungry a killer, but guess what? There was some saving grace, a beacon of light and hope. On this episode of Corner Office, we are about to find out more about who. Nardo. Who is Nardo? Where the man you come from? Guess what? Over Nardo we are reaching now. Nardo, pull up to a chair now. Meet us over front, Nardo.
Alright. We a big deal when we touch ground. Yeah, a KFC when we're pulling up.
Anything for the taste of a KFC, big deal. The time by KFC is
7:30.
We welcome you back with what's happening online in social media.
So, what's trending in our local social media spaces? The Cuban tree frog has invaded Jamaica, sparking major ecological and economic worries. Since its initial discovery in Clarendon, this non-native species has quickly spread to 8 of Jamaica's 14 parishes. Here are some of your reactions. At Wadeen_Mighty writes, saw one in my bathroom on the wall, so creepy. I prefer our native frogs over these ones any day. At JR Bloodline asks, how a tree frog made its way from Cuba to Jamaica. At Roosters World JA adds, did you know that a lot of animals, including the Cuban tree frogs, are transported to new areas by the movement of plants or plant materials? At Tacy.Bless says, listen to me, frog. Too much iguana Jamaica right now. Go back. At Cure Kalonjija posts, them jump far, climb everything. Sick of them right now. Can't leave a window open when night fall. At Soy_Chrissy comments, it's time to get my spray bottle and bleach ready. And that's what's trending online today. Continue to share your thoughts with us on X at CVM TV and CVM Television on Facebook. I'm Courtney Lewis.
Now to the business report with Joel Crosskill.
Lots to share with you in the business report today, relating to the element of luck involved when the BR reached out to DRT Communications to follow up on how the company has fared since the relaunch of its state-of-the-art monitoring tool back in October, a technology that provides advanced media monitoring services to support strategic data-driven decision-making for private sector companies across the island. So when Danielle Terrelonk, Managing Director of DRT, shared the following last week, our interest in knowing the latest facts was peaked.
Some very exciting news is coming DRT's way. We are forming partnerships across industries in Jamaica, and of course we have regional expansion on our hands. So we have a lot of things happening right now. We hope to have some major announcements coming even as early as next week in terms of a significant partnership with the business community here in Jamaica.
Left to wonder which corporate entity may have recognized the benefits of the platform, the BR was forced to think bigger as news emerged that the company had signed an official partnership agreement with the largest and most prominent business umbrella group on the island, the private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ.
Today I am so pleased to be signing an MOU with DRT with regards to a communication plan that they have and a platform that they are extending to the market. And voila, the PSOJ is the one to start, off with DRT. So Danielle, congratulations. I think this is a wonderful software. I'm excited about what it will do for us as a PSOJ and also for the members of the PSOJ, because in this MOU is also a provision for PSOJ members as well.
Through this collaboration, DRT Communications will serve as PSOJ's preferred media monitoring partner, delivering tailored media insights designed